This event has been organised by the Central Clinical School by the Gender Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee at Monash University for the International Day of LGBTQIA+ people in STEM. I would like to start by doing a welcome to country and say that we acknowledge the Boonwurrung and the Wurundjeri clans of the Kulin Nation, who are the custodians of the lands and the waters on which I am today, and pay our respects to the elders past and present. I'm Rhiannon Grant. I'm a member of the Gender Equity and Diversity Committee, and I'm the student representative.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm also a member of the Gender Committee at CCS.
I would like to introduce our two speakers today. So we have Catriona and we have Matthew, if you would like to give us a bit of an introduction to yourselves.
Hello, my name is Catriona. My pronouns are she, her, and I am many things. I'm an immunology researcher. I've finished my PhD, done, dusted, waiting for graduation. Yay. And I'm still working in a lab, but I also do a lot of science communication as well. So I teach communications at the University of Melbourne, and I also present shows at ScienceWorks and Museums Victoria.
I'm Matthew. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Glasgow in the UK. So I have worked on a bit of everything. So I've done a bit of immunology, a bit of metabolic biology, epigenetics, and now doing a bit of infectious disease biology. So a little bit of everything. During this time, I set up a group called the STEMVillage. And initially, the idea was to try and promote visibility of LGBTQ plus people in STEM in Scotland. But then the pandemic happened very soon after. And I thought, you know what, everyone's going online. So let's just, try and incorporate this into a bigger kind of thing. So that's been very worthwhile, very rewarding. I've managed to meet a lot of people like Catriona through doing this. It's been wonderful. And I've had the opportunity to hear and learn from a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds across the world. So, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So for today's discussion, we have some questions that we really want to hear your input from. So how about Rhiannon? You go ahead. Yeah.
I'd like to start with asking, what are some barriers or challenges that are faced by LGBTQIA+ people in STEM?
I've made this point a few times over the last few years, and I think it's something that people are really talking about now, is how heteronormative STEM is. We still, we talk about this stereotype of the old white straight guy sort of as the gatekeeper within STEM. And that, of course, applies to not just to LGBTQ plus people, that applies to women, to ethnic minority people. It's a gate. This stereotype is a gatekeeper for many different groups, but it definitely does apply to LGBTQ plus people in STEM. The example that I like to give, which is half stolen from someone else, I have to give credit to someone else, is imagine, you go to a conference and you have two people presenting sort of similar talks, sort of opposing views, and one of them presents as cisgendered white male, and excuse me, and the other one was assigned male at birth, is non-binary, maybe wears makeup, has nail varnish, something such as that. And I would put money on the fact that people would take the cisgendered male presenting person seriously, and not everybody, but a definite proportion of the audience would take that person seriously and not the other one. And I think that that just highlights sort of those biases that are still in place in STEM. And that extends to things like hiring practices, to promotion within departments. For example, people who are transitioning, people who come out while they're within the workplace have to then deal with that. So for me, that would be one of the major barriers, I think.
Yeah, like I've definitely seen a friend and colleagues as well, like go through that bias where, they're transitioning, and suddenly in the world of physics, they're not taken as seriously anymore. And certainly I know that a survey, I know it's a 2019 survey, so things may have changed now, but a 2019 survey of physical-based scientists showed that nearly 30% of LGBTQIA plus scientists and particularly and half of the transgender scientists just wanted to leave. They were considering leaving because they just weren't comfortable. So I think, yeah, absolutely, discrimination, the microaggressions and things like that. Matthew, I don't know how you feel about this. I know that I've read a piece that you wrote for Immunology and Cell Biology about your experiences, but that sort of sense of invisibility, because as you sort of alluded to at the start, sort of everyone assumes kind of cisgender and heterosexual are kind of the norms, unless you kind of say otherwise. And I think that sense of invisibility gets to people as well. And it sort of contributes to this sense of uncomfortable, well, awkwardness and fear, I think, of coming out in your workplace, because you don't know, is this a safe space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I have to say, first off, I've been very fortunate. I think the fact that I am white and cisgender and, so forth, I think means that I can mask things quite easily, and that affords a lot of privilege. And I'm very aware that although I speak about these things, I don't have the same experiences as someone who's not cisgendered, someone from an ethnic minority. So, I like to be very aware of that. Also, when I did my PhD, as I wrote in that piece, people would wear like you have on the rainbow lanyard, which sort of helps to increase that visibility without you having to talk about things. But certainly since I switched to the university where I am now, although it's, people are very accepting, people are very, so far, mostly, very, very okay with everything. They don't have things in place, they don't have strategies in place, such as the rainbow lanyard scheme, things like that, where it kind of bypasses that invisibility a bit. And I have noticed that even though it's a small thing, but actually having to say the act of "my husband," you become a little bit more aware that people might not have been expecting you to say that.
Yeah.
And and as that feeling when you speak to people you don't know and essentially come out to them, and you have that split second judgment where you think, wait, is it okay to say this, or how are they going to react, all in a split second. And in my PhD institute, I didn't really have that anymore, partly because people already knew me, but partly because of the visibility of the lanyard. So yeah, I think the invisibility does increase those background stress levels a little bit, and I think a lot of the time we're not. I don't know how you feel, but I think a lot of the time we're not conscious of it, of how it kind of creeps up on you. That's a little bit of stress and discomfort.
Yeah, and it can grow a little bit as well. So I didn't come out for a while in my lab because I was dating a male when I first joined the lab, and so I passed as straight, and so that was fine. And then I do remember bringing it up in a pub setting, so like members of the lab, but at the pub, and I was told by a postdoc, like, oh, maybe now isn't the right time for this conversation. And you're like, well, when is?
Yeah, how do you open up? Yeah.
It's terrible.
But, yeah, it's like, it shouldn't be like that. You should be just as comfortable as telling people, Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, how's it any different saying, oh, I'm a man, and oh, my wife went to the dentist today. How is it any different?
Exactly, totally. We have set quite a few challenges and barriers that we have had. So how about we talk about how we can foster welcoming and supportive environment for LGBTQIA plus people instead? what's your advices? Maybe Catriona go first this time.
Well, Matthew was talking about lanyards, and as Matthew says, it's something so simple, but it means that I don't have to worry about having that conversation where I'm going to ask or indicate that I might be coming out, and then I'm just shushed away. Like it's kind of nice. And I have already mentioned to Zoe and Rhiannon that this is not my office, but look, I put a splash of color, and I think that kind of thing is lovely. And when Matthew did publish the article that I alluded to, people on Twitter were saying, yeah, and I put a rainbow flag in my lab as well. And all these people who do things just to sort of show that it is a safe space, because essentially I think, what we want is people to just treat us like anybody else, really. You just want people to not do the wrong thing, or not say the wrong thing. And if they do, people get pronouns wrong, people get names wrong, and that's fine. But just as long as you want to learn from that mistake. Like, I know someone who has a dead name, so a name that they don't use anymore. And when they introduce themselves, they were like, "Oh, hey, I'm Ryan." Wait, no, I'm not. So, when things are new, it's new for everyone. So everyone's kind of adjusting. But as long as you show that you are trying to make that effort. And as Matthew also sort of alluded to before, we are us. And look, LGBTQIA+, that's a lot of letters, and we don't represent all of those letters. So it's all very well for anyone listening in to hear from us, but also, an overall lack of awareness, I think, of issues in the workplace, like LGBTQIA+ issues in the workplace is one of the barriers that we didn't explicitly say. But if you go and educate yourself, then we can talk about resources later, but, that willingness to learn is a great thing, and it shows that you care.
Oh, very, very beautiful words. Yes. Yeah, the awareness, yes, and the willingness, yes, absolutely.
Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, actually, just to excuse me, just to build on what you were saying there, Catriona, there was an interview in the British media just yesterday from, I don't know if you know him, but there's a TV chat show host, Graham Norton, who he's gay. He was one of the first sort of big gay personalities on TV, and he was talking about he was talking about cancel culture, actually. So he was talking about the toxicity of some of the conversations, and how basically people like me who don't experience certain situations, we're not necessarily the ideal ones to speak to those experiences, but that all of us should, when we, how was it that we put it? Essentially, but it's up to us to be the ones to learn, and to learn about other people's experiences, and not necessarily put the onus on those people for educating us, but to actually take the time to really learn, rather than just listening to rumors online, listening to gossip in the workplace, things like that. Actually thinking, hang on a moment, this is a person, this is another person. I think I'm probably getting off topic a little bit here, but but actually taking the time to realize, we're all human beings, and we're all trying to get through life and be happy and be content. And so trying to humanize each other and learn from each other. I think I went massively off topic there, but sorry.
I have another thing to add, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go.
I want to command the conversation. I think something that's really important that allies do is call things out. Say, okay, that's not okay. There's no room for anti-LGBTQIA+ discrimination in this space, and that's really, really important, because the more advocating allies can do, the more it just saves time and energy for people who are sort of battling it every day. I'm also fortunate in that, you know, I don't have to deal with microaggressions all the time, but you know, it does also drain you. Like, you know, as Matthew was saying, like, you know, thinking about the fact that, oh, I am going to throw out a gender here that people might not be expecting as I'm telling a story about my week. Just, you know, for science, there was a study that came out earlier this year. I think it was in March or May, one of the M months, that showed that people who are LGBTQIA plus and academics who don't disclose their sexual orientation publish fewer papers than people who are out. And whether or not that says something about the fact that just coming out to your work colleagues is a good thing, or whether it like sort of shows workplace culture is really, really important. So if people are out and proud, like they can just thrive in that space, I think that that's a really interesting thing to sort of just see how much, you know, it can just zap your energy and time, enthusiasm.
I can totally imagine if you carry something that you feel really stressed about, your productivity definitely would drop. Whereas if you're embraced, you know, you're supported in your working environment, definitely you'll be doing more things than you can think of.
Yeah. So I think like just creating a nice safe space is really what you can do.
Yeah. Oh.
Do you have any suggestions for resources that could be available for LGBTQIA plus people in STEM, and maybe also for people that are allies if they want to increase their awareness or education? What would you suggest?
A great question. So I think, you know, there are there are multiple groups now that are advocating for increased visibility in STEM, including, for example, LGBT STEM, Pride in STEM. They're definitely UK based. I'm not sure about. Oh, Out in STEM is a kind of a primarily US based group. They all have websites.
STEMVillage.
The STEMVillage as well. I was trying not to be like, oh, me.
I'll say it for you.
Yes.
We also have a YouTube channel with our talks. But so, you know, there's groups like that. Groups like Black in STEM, you know, groups like that, where again they have a lot of online resources where you can go and you can read, you can watch videos from people who are within our community, and see that actually, you know, we're just people, but you know, there are people in our communities who are doing amazing world-leading research, which deserves to be taken seriously. The other thing that I like about there being so many online resources now as well is it's good for people who, LGBTQ plus people who are considering careers in STEM, to feel represented. You know, they can see that actually it is a space for me. It's not just for the other people. So I think for me, those are some good resources. As Catriona was saying, there was the 2019 study. It's a survey from the Institute of Physics. Is that the one that you were referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to step on your toes. I knew it was UK, but like.
yeah, but it's a really, I know, you know, these things can be a bit heavy to read, but I think especially like for allies, it's good to at least just look at the graphs and the polls and kind of go, you know, even as someone within the community, I was kind of blown away to see actually just how many people are having negative experiences and experiencing, like I said, microaggressions, overt aggressions, being stereotyped against. So I think those are, to me, would be some of the kind of good resources if you want to educate yourself. I guess those are more for allies in a way. But I think for people who are within the community, sort of realizing that, or reaching out to online groups, not just the STEMVillage, all the other groups that I mentioned, and sometimes, you know, it can help to build a bit of community online, even if you don't necessarily have it in. Oh, sorry, I share an office with my husband and he's just sneezing. So, you know, if you don't have access to that community in the physical world, it can help build community. I think is an important resource. It's been very helpful for me, definitely.
If you do want to build the community in the physical world, though, we do have Queers in Science here in Australia, and there is a Victorian chapter, so you can definitely go to events, and there have been online events, COVID, of course, but now, like, you know, there are some in-person things as well, which is amazing to see. I did a bit of Googling to see what resources there are at Monash specifically, and there's Gleam, which is for queer plus STEM students. So there is a specific one for STEM students, which I think is awesome.
That's great. Really wonderful chatting with you two. And we will put out many resources at the end of this video. So thanks again, Catriona and Matthew, for your time. Yes, let's hope we will be all having better awareness and be more willing to be open up, and all have a happy and very inclusive working environment. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time to put this together as well, and you know, for being in that position where you have the ability to put something together and put out these resources. You know, the more people in those positions, in your position, that are doing that, you know, the better things get for all of us. So yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
And for those of you listening, thank you. Like,
yes.
you know.